of mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. It's alive! It's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I'm back as your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
They are not men, madame. They are dead bodies.
Okay. Hi, Dan. Hiya. Hi, Dan. That's a really good opening. And a tagline I didn't pinch. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Monsters Up North podcast. I decided to bring back the Mistress of Ceremonies because I'm sick of just going. I thought I was being clever. And, you know, let's be grown up, let's be professional. But it sounds weird just saying, and I'm Sam. Nah. So I brought it back. I don't care. I'll go back on my word. I'm not bothered. Hi everyone. So this week we're going back. Right the way back. We're going pre-code back to 1932 with White Zombie. Not to be mistaken with Rob Zombie's White Zombie.
I mean, he's old, but he's not 1932 old, so...
I mean, he wouldn't be here, let's be honest.
No.
Nah.
Actually,
Actually,
he does look like a dusty corpse these days, so I wouldn't be surprised.
He does look dusty, doesn't he?
Looks dusty. There's something dusty about him. He looks like he just get old, like you want
ash.
to hit him like down with a stick or something, just to, like a rug. You want to beat him with a rug.
It looks like he fell in an ashtray and just never really recovered from it.
He's been near a volcano. He's fine.
I remember when I saw him live, he just looked dirty. He looked really dirty. He walked straight past us and grabbed my hand, and he looked dirty.
I'll wash this in a minute.
Like,
yeah.
I was so taken aback. Like, do you know, like someone would be like, "Oh my god, he touched us!" I was like, "Oh my god, he get off!" I don't like being touched.
That's fair. I'm with you on that one. Stranger, how dare you?
I don't know you.
Unsolicited hand holding is not permitted.
Get off. Right, I'll do the disclaimer, and we're going to crack on in to... I don't know how to describe this movie because it's this. We'll crack on into this.
Yes.
Sure. Everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our socials, or you can join us in the comment section where we can have an open discussion. Or come and join us in Discord. Actually, there's been a lot of people talking in Discord. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun. Keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Yes, one would really wish and hope that you would not be a dick. Yes.
Please don't do it.
No. We couldn't possibly do such a thing. No. That's how all English people speak, and
Of course we do.
The transatlantic American accent in this film is very much like this. Why does everybody speak like this?
Please don't. Oh shit. Oh shit. What was the... Why is Magdalene being so dramatic?
Now, my favourite is the fact that they called the leading man Neil. Now, nothing against Neils. I don't have anything against Neils. It's just not your classic leading man's name.
You might as well have called him Dave. Terrible.
Everyone knows it, Dave.
Yes, we do. My intro is really, really short. So White Zombie is the 1932 pre-code horror produced by Edward Halperin and directed by Victor Halperin, starring Bela Lugosi as Zombie Master Murder Legendra. Am I saying that right? Legendra?
I think it's Legendre.
The
For the sheer
genre.
reason that because it's supposed to be in the West Indies and everything at this point was under French control or French influence.
Gosh, yeah. God, so yeah, you're probably gonna have to correct us a million times. But the dead walk among us as Monsters Up North brings you White Zombie.
You overwhelm me urge to sing Dracula.
Bottle it up! Don't do it! Don't do it for the shortest movie we've ever reviewed.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it was short in so many ways, not just in the length, which was, what did we say? An hour and 4 minutes?
Hour and 7 minutes and
Yeah.
11 seconds.
And it took 11 days to shoot, but they shot day, night for the entire period to do this film.
Yeah. This movie is very easily found on YouTube,
Yes.
because I think no one cares anymore. Like, I
Well,
genuinely don't.
there's no copyright on it. You know, when they lose their thing.
Yes. Like our logo is now in the public domain.
That's it. That's the words I was looking for.
Just saying. Yeah. So White Zombie, again, not to be mistaken with Rob Zombie. It's where it is inspired from. Just want to point out before we get into this that this is very much a movie of its time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to sit here and constantly go through it and apologize for language that is used in this time. Obviously, we're not going to take the piss, but we just want to make it very clear, movie of its time, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it's about voodoo.
Yes,
Yes.
which I'm still confused about, but there's some plot holes, but you know, well, okay.
I mean, it's not as bad as it has a bit of a coherent story. It's not as bad as Plan 9, let's put it that way.
Oh God, nothing could be as bad as Plan 9. I mean, Plan 9 was written by a madman, but you know.
That is very true. That is very true. Well, this was inspired by a book by William B. Seabrook's 1929 book on Haitian voodoo.
Yes.
So at the time in Hollywood, the idea of voodoo and voodoo magic was quite mysterious, and the oh gosh, what were their names? Victor and Edward Halperin kind of jumped on a bandwagon of where Hollywood was at the time. Now, this movie is very much coming. This is the feeling I got from it anyway. It feels like a silent movie.
Yes.
But it's like on the cusp. Doesn't know quite where it wants to be. Is it a talkie? Is it silent? Because there was a lot of gaps where nobody was saying a goddamn word.
Yeah, I think Madeline and Neil had just come. They were silent actors coming into the talkie era. So
yeah,
it was. I mean, Bela had his experience from talking in 2 years earlier, a year earlier, doing Dracula 31, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So he'd had his experience of doing a talkie before, so he understood what went into it. But yeah, I know that the zombie. I had a little look into the Haitian thing about zombies, basically, and it's a religious punishment that they used to that they called zombification, and it was used for committing crimes when people have committed crimes such as rape or theft of land, or all these considered like really bad things back then. Not that they aren't now, but you know what I mean. I'd say there's a distinct disparity between land theft and rape, but you know, basically the person is drugged, buried alive, exhumed, then enslaved by secret societies in Haiti, right?
Oh, wow.
So that then became the basis of the myth that the person was dead but alive, even though they probably never died, because they were probably exhumed before they'd actually died and then just resuscitated or brought round. And then they were like, obviously, where they'd been starved of oxygen because they'd been buried alive, they probably weren't compos mentis. Therefore, they acted like they didn't have
oh my goodness
all the wherewithal to function as society would have then. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, that was something that when I looked into that, I was like, wow, I had no idea.
I didn't
I
even
had
think to
no
go
idea
and
that's where
look
it came from.
into it. I just, because I read the part of where Hollywood was at the time and what they were interested in, and this was kind of like jumping on that bandwagon. I never even thought to go and have a look into why they were interested in it. And that kind of explains a line as well in the movie that it must have had an impact on us because it stuck in my head is where he says, there has been cases of people who have died and come back to life. It happens every day. And I'm like, no, it fucking doesn't.
I don't know where you are, mate, but it doesn't happen here.
But that kind of makes sense now.
Yeah, I had a quick sort of like look into some odd things that I don't know if you've gone down, but we'll see if we get there. But yeah,
Probably not.
I didn't find a great deal on this film itself because
No.
it got lost for a long time. So there was no
Yeah.
stories to bridge the gap because by the time it got refound, the characters that were playing in it or the actors had died. The majority of the people who were in it had sadly left this earth,
Yeah.
So it's been a mucky old one when it finally sort of reared its head again, this film, wasn't it? It got a bit.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say mucky, the first thing that comes into my head is the treatment of Bela Lugosi. I'm going to put this out here and say this probably is one of Bela's best performances. I genuinely liked everything he did in this. He was able to speak in his own language, like in his own voice.
Yeah.
It didn't have to. There was no hint. I want to say there was no hint of a Dracula there, but he clearly took a lot of the presence of Dracula to command the character he was playing for this. Just to point out as well, this is our one, two, three, fourth movie of Bela's we're doing. He was in The Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
And this one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I still can't say Plan 9 from Outer Space without it, like Plan 9 from Outer Space, without it sounding so Geordie. But if you did tune in and watch or listen to our Dracula episode, you would have learned that, and what we learned was that Bela was, because of decisions he made in Dracula, it kind of followed on into his career. And this movie is no different. I feel he, and a lot of other people feel, especially when you go into reading about it, and his son as well, has said this is probably one of the best performances he ever did. But he got severely,
Mm-hmm.
severely underpaid for this performance.
Horrifically, yeah. He got paid the rumors are it was between $400 to $800 in 1932. Now, bear in mind, on conversion, because I did it, because my OCD wouldn't let me not, that's 18,400 by today's standards for Bela Lugosi, the man that everybody automatically knows the face, whether you know his name or not. But that's Dracula. That man. So this is the second film. I think it's the first film he did off the back of Dracula.
Yeah.
So the success of that film alone was insane. So for him to come into this film and even take a pay cut, because if I remember rightly, when he did Dracula, call me out, I might be wrong, but he was paid more than this to do Dracula, and that was still horrifically terrible. But he took it because he wanted to play the part so much, and everybody had that was cast prior had been like walked out, not done it.
Yeah.
He played Dracula on the stage, and he was so determined to play Dracula. He said, "I'll do it for whatever you want to give me," and they were like, "Oh, here's $1,500." At that time, that was disgusting. But when you look at what he was paid for this,
it's even worse. But this is something that followed him about. It was like, you can have Bela Lugosi, and it won't cost you that much. And it was something that stuck with him. But it's a decision that he made from Dracula that just followed him everywhere. And it was so sad because his performance in Dracula there's heart in there. Like, as much as I am not a fan of Dracula or you know, that that side of it, and like, but yeah, there's heart put in there, and then there's a lot of heart put in there. Like I felt like he really was earning his money, and even more. It's just how, like, I don't know what it was. There was just something about him. He was very commanding. He was very clear. I could understand everything he was saying. I mean, the eyebrows alone was whoa.
You know who did the eyebrows?
I most certainly do.
Of course you do. I
Of
hope
course
you
I do.
I'd be mad if you didn't with this hot glue, eh?
Oh my God, just imagine if he hot glued them on.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh my God, if you don't know who we're talking about, where have you been? Where have you been?
Yeah.
This is the work of Jack Pierce,
Yep.
the hot glue maniac himself.
The king of hair laying and hot glue, and he is famous for birthing Larry the Lurker and covering poor Lon Chaney Jr. in hair.
In
So
yak hair.
yeah.
With yak with no, don't, because that sound is going to stay with me
Oh, sorry.
forever.
It's just standard.
That'll become apparent very soon.
Yes.
But yeah, this is all down to Jack Pierce and his magic, like that look. And I know it probably doesn't come across.
But this is the thing, right? He purposely took the choice. If I'm right, the Widow's Peak wasn't Bela, but he had the Widow's Peak in this, and it was massive, right? He had the crazy eyebrows, so they'd obviously either shaved them from like halfway across his head and shaved them off, or they'd move him, they'd like make up them out in some way, and like put some sort of like
It makes me think as to how, because we know how to do that now, and that's thanks to drag queens.
putty. I think they used
Yeah.
putty back in the day, didn't they? Because I
Must
think
have.
Lon Chaney was famous for showing, doing all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
So it
Yeah.
probably might have been putty, if anything. And I'm not sure if the tash was Bela's or it was also a Jack Pierce moment. But that look,
It was Jack's.
yeah. See, that look to me, that the Widow's Peak is where your brain goes when you think Dracula automatically. But like, it was an excessive one. The eyebrows, like they had that kind of evil point to them, and then it had that kind of like Dick Dastardly kind of tash, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. Oh, I thought the look was absolutely brilliant and very basic as well. For like, we know what Jack Pierce can do. We've seen what he can do. He's not the king of monster makeup. I mean, let's be honest, that's Lon Chaney. You can't get around that. But he is a monster makeup artiste. It kind of got us intrigued as to how Jack Pierce did this, because if you remember rightly, he's a contract player for Universal Studios. And there's a lot of loaning going on here, because the studio loaned out to RKO. I love saying RKO. Always reminds of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the big antenna thing, It reminds me of the original King Kong.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there's a lot of it sounds like there's been a lot of helping out to get to for them to be able to produce this, which made us think that's probably why Jack Pierce is here, because they're usually quite protective of the people.
Yeah.
Their contract people.
Do you know what? I looked for a budget and I looked for the box office, and it was giving me exactly the same figures for both. So I don't know what the box office or the budget was. I just have one amount, and they had at that time, for an independent movie, which technically this was, because Edward and Victor weren't associated with picture houses. They weren't given a, MGM or Paramount or Universal didn't go, all right, son, here's 50K, go make a movie. That didn't happen. So this was an independently made that then had to go out and find a distributor at the time. But the whatever it was, it says that they either made they made 50K at the box office in 1932, which equates to 1.4 million by today's standards. And Bela's son said that he wished his dad had taken the option to take a percentage of the box office rather than a wage, because he feels like his dad would have gained substantially more, not just financially, but it would have been something that would have been ongoing for the
it
rest of
would,
his life, you
yeah,
know.
it would have been a something to fall back onto.
Yeah.
And that's something he really needed because he
Mm.
never had anything to fall back onto, hence the reason why he died with debt
Mm.
and not not the lifestyle that you think he would have had for who he was. But do we think that because of time? You know how like it's between, I'm gonna hopefully not butcher this, but we we know him as this iconic character, but was he as iconic then as what he is now? Is it time that's created that iconicism of him?
Well, I would say probably because, I mean, we're talking 1931, obviously, for Dracula. We are 6 years away from the 100-year anniversary of Dracula, the movie. So
Right.
in 94 years, the Universal monsters would have had many resurgences,
Oh Christ,
and
yeah.
it's in the midst of another one right now. So
Mm.
you know, Universal are flogging everything they can. You know, you're getting everything you can. The decent thing about, I will say, about Bela's son, they can't use his imagery the way that they use Karloff's at the moment, because Lugosi owns the likeness, and Lugosi is the brand, which was started by his son. So when you see products with Lugosi on, they have to be officially licensed by Lugosi itself, and the Lugosi brand is usually on it. So you'll never
Oh,
see the Universal Monsters logo on a Lugosi product because Lugosi owned the rights to the likeness of Bela. So
so his son protected his name
exactly,
even when he couldn't. Oh
exactly.
my God, that's just giving me chills. I
So
love
yeah,
knowing that.
if you won't ever really see them use that you it's kind of hard. You'll see them use Dracula within the film sense if they're showing
Hmm.
clips that they can do, because the film is the property of Universal.
Yeah.
However, the likeness, so if they're flogging t-shirts or stuff, you'll always notice that Dracula doesn't look quite like Dracula,
No, he doesn't, does he?
and that's because they can't use Bela's likeness.
Oh my God, that just makes total sense. So I get every year the Universal Monster calendar, and this year, fucking travesty, absolute travesty. Do you know who's not in it? Claude. Claude is not in it at
That's
all. He was
that's
in last year's.
in
He
the
was in it
bin.
twice. He was in it twice.
Get in the bin.
But yeah, this year is Creature, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, and Frankenstein. That's it. Recycled over and over. Honestly, it's the worst one I've had so far. But Dracula doesn't look like Bela Lugosi.
Mm.
It's generic. It's a generic looking Dracula. That just makes total fucking sense because he's
Yeah.
February. I stare at him every morning.
Yeah, it's just purely because the surname has been branded, and
I
there's
am so fucking happy about that.
Mm.
Oh,
So
at
that's
least he got some
also
protection.
why, you know, Universal's doing the new Dark World,
Yeah,
Dark
I'm not all
Universe.
clued up with it to be honest, but yeah, I do know about it. I don't live
Yeah,
under a
basically
rock,
they've
but
built another park, and
yes,
in
I
that
know
park
that.
they've got a few bits. And Dark Universe is the whole land of the Universal monsters. So you've got Victor Frankenstein's castle, and there's a ride
Mm.
based in there, and you've got all the animatronics inside there, and they've done a lot of the videos where you get to see the animatronics, and they are like people dressed in costumes moving, and ooh, that's going to be weird. But none of them look like the Universal monsters that we know and love. They've all been changed. Now I can only say either they were asked, the families said, right, no, you know, Carlos
Mm.
families and Lugosi said, right, if you're going to use their likeness, you need to pay us for the pleasure. And
Mm-hmm.
Universal Studios were like, fuck you, we'll do our own thing, which seems like the likely option.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't want to go through court battles of likenesses and using this and that, I'm guessing. Or they just decided, just for simple generic
Oh,
purposes.
that's just yeah, bringing in a new era kind of thing.
I
Like
don't
it's a
know.
new start. No, I've not looked at them yet. The only thing I know is that our logo, who is Frank, is fair use. That image is fair use. Don't come for us. It's fair use. But maybe Universal's just kind of going down a route of we need to We need something fresh. We need something new. Something for the kids.
I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued, but I'll wait till it's all died down before I even attempt to go in that bit. Do you remember when
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge opened and it was like a 16-hour wait just to get in the Millennium Falcon at one point? I was like, I'll wait till that dies down, thanks.
I
So
haven't even been back yet. The last time I was there, they were building Harry Potter for fuck's sake. So
I've
I
been on
haven't
that
been
ride.
back since then.
I've been on that ride a couple of times, and I do have to say it is really breathtaking when you walk up towards and
Oh,
you
I'll
see
cry.
Hogwarts and see how big it is. That to me is insane because I've been to Harry Potter World in London where they filmed the fucking thing, and there is all the props and everything inside, which are amazing.
Yeah.
But to physically see something built, it's not to scale, obviously, and it's only a tiny little bit of it, but to see it with your own eyes,
Yeah, it's so it'd be
it's
like, whoa.
totally bizarre. I mean, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter person, and we're not
No.
going to
Oh no. No. No,
all
no,
turf
no.
situations and whatnot,
No,
but
no,
like
nothing like that. I lost a lot of love for Harry Potter the day I read the books because he's a dick.
Harry's not the best.
He's the worst. He's the absolute worst. He's a pig-headed, absolute little fucking shit. I don't like him. He's got
I know
absolute.
what.
He's got. Oh, there was one chapter in it where Loomis told him you can't just rely on Expelliarmus as your spell because there's a lot of other wizards out there who are going to knock the shit out of you if you don't, you know, train up. And he just went, I know what I'm doing. I'm Harry Potter. Yeah, I lost it. Yeah, I I can't get into it because I will. This will just turn into a whole different podcast. But I have never been to Harry Potter World. I know I'll cry because it's like I've seen the movies. Like I'm soft as shit. Like I'm an emotional wreck half the time. So it's a guarantee I'm gonna cry. But yeah, I haven't been yet. I'm going to Disney Paris in
Hmm.
November. Yay, Avengers. There's a lot of Avengers stuff there. Um, anyways, White Zombie. Back to Bela. I have an interesting thing about the main lady herself,
You might have done what I did then, yeah.
Madge Bellamy.
Yes, naughty lady.
Madge Bellamy.
Naughty lady.
Yeah, she got into a bit of a. Can we just talk about her makeup just for a little second?
The
Oh,
little
them. Oh, the little love heart lips.
mm.
Oh my God, I fell in love. And her eyes.
Well, you know that there was two scenes cut from this film that you're not supposed to technically see, but then when they refound the film, they had the film as a whole without the cuts in it, and
Yeah.
that's the one I saw. It was a very short scene where she's getting ready, where she's about to put her wedding dress on,
Yes, I saw that.
and she's in her underwear.
Yes,
But
she
she's not.
is.
In 1932, we're talking silk satin like shorts and a satin cami
Yeah.
with like little stockings on. It
She was
wasn't,
very covered. It wasn't
yeah,
scandalous.
but that was scandalous for the time. So they actually had to
Oh.
cut it out because the theaters wouldn't accept it with a naked woman in it, basically. She wasn't at all, but
No, she really wasn't.
yeah.
She looked absolutely breathtaking in this movie. Them eyes, them
Mm,
big
mm,
doughy eyes, and everything she wore looked like an angel had touched it. I don't know how else to describe it because
mm.
she just looked phenomenal. She was brilliant. But yeah, she's a naughty girl.
Naughty, naughty girl.
I don't think she's one who quite survived the talkies though.
That's what the rumors were when I read into her quite a lot. They were all saying the same thing. She was a face, and she only ever chose her parts because she wanted to be the face. She didn't want to be the comedy relief. She wanted to be the face, and she
Mm.
even admitted towards the end before she died that she wishes she'd not taken herself so seriously and she'd gone down the comedic route because she feels like she would have been far more successful.
I think she could have
So,
been right.
mm,
She could have really done a lot with that face and done. Oh yeah, she could. Oh my gosh, yes. But what she did do in 1940. Um, this is her career. Her career is pretty much ended at this point.
hmm
But she did manage to gain attention. So you got to remember in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, if you ain't shooting someone, like Chicago the musical kind of has it right. If you ain't shooting somebody, you ain't gonna get in the papers. And good. Well, bad publicity is good publicity. Yeah, she shot someone.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. She swears that she's a crack shot and she would have hit him if she really wanted to. She just wanted to get his attention 3
Yeah.
times.
3 times.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Madge, come on now.
Sort yourself out, Madge. Get better at shooting. This is what I pointed out the other day in a film me and Anth were watching. It was True Lies, and I was like, how bad is everyone at shooting in this movie? Not one person hits one person. It's ridiculous. Unless you're Arnie, and you always hit a person.
You're either a red jacket or a bloody stormtrooper if you're not the main character, are you? That's just the standard setup, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. So on the January 20th, 1943, she was arrested in San Francisco and charged with assault with a deadly weapon after firing a .32 caliber revolver at her former lover, wealthy lumber executive Albert Stanwood Murphy 3 times. Yeah.
Because he married someone else.
Yeah, she was having an affair with him. Like she's not she's very guilty in all of this.
She admits she was a shitbag though. Like before she died, she sort of had a couple of interviews where she sat there and she was just like, I have regrets about how I've handled things and the way I chose to go with my career. She said, but at the end of the day, it's happened. So what can I do? So
I've got a quote here from what she said shortly after the shooting. She claimed that she didn't intend to harm Murphy and that she wanted to see him. He wouldn't see me, so I took the little gun with me. I had the little gun so long, I thought it was just a toy. Yeah. Yeah. She was also quoted to saying, I only winged him, which is what I meant to do. Believe me, I'm a crack shot.
he can't be that good, love. I fail to believe. I 3 times, you missed him 3 times.
Yes. Interestingly enough, for a lady of the 20s and 30s, when she started her career in the 20s, she was and was always until she died, an atheist and a vegetarian. Now I know that might be like, okay, but you don't admit them things when
No.
you don't admit they would class vegetarianism as a kind of a bit of a default.
Are
But you
you
don't
doing it
eat
for
real
your health?
food?
Are you doing it for your health? What is the benefits? But yeah, she's actually the thing. I don't know if you saw. She actually stalked him a lot as well prior to the shooting. She was stalking him.
He sounds even better.
She said she wasn't within speaking distance of him, but he saw her and shouted something, and she didn't understand what it was. She thinks he said "don't," but she's not entirely sure. So she just shot him. She just shot him.
Absolutely brilliant.
And
This
it took
would have
witnesses to wrestle the gun out of her hand. They had her on the floor and they were pulling the gun out of her hand.
Get in, Madge. I mean, if you've seen the movie, this woman has nothing on her. Like she is tiny.
Yeah,
So tiny little thing. In the 1980s, this film. Dan mentioned earlier that the movie was lost. It was discovered in the early 60s. Had its bit makeover, but in the 80s it had a bit of a resurgence. And she didn't know about this until people started asking about, have you seen that White Zombie is now playing at such and such? And she actually started attending screenings and doing Q&As with people, and kind of like it has become a cult classic in a way. But yeah, she started doing Q&As with people, and that's how she like kind of spent her time, was because of this movie.
Well, Neil, if we may sidestep to Neil, I've done a bit of research on Neil, the guy who played Neil, John Harron.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So John Harron basically was the younger brother of a very big family of actors and actresses at the time. He was like the brother that no one really, employed. His older brother was the
Is he Bud Westmore? Is he the Bud Westmore of his family?
Well, he basically, his older brother was Robert Harron, and Robert sadly passed away because he had a mysterious shooting death.
Did Madge get next to him?
They think it was suicide, but it was marked as accidental due to controversy and obviously all that sort of shit. So John started to pick up all the parts that Robert obviously would have had he have still been alive.
Oh.
But not long after this, I think it was about 6 years, so 1939, John was coming home and he was really tired, and he'd gone to Seattle because he decided he needed a break and he wanted to do some fishing and he wanted to do a bit of R&R for himself. But after he arrived, he developed a really bad headache, so they took him straight into hospital. They then diagnosed him instantly with spinal meningitis. He died suddenly on November the 24th at the hospital. He was only 36 years old when he died. His wife, Betty, this is where it gets really insane.
I've just seen what our surname is.
His wife, Betty, remarried Ern in 1941. Betty went on to become the founding member of the SAG Awards. Yes. Ern had 5 brothers and a sister, Ada, that passed at the age of 24. Ern had a twin brother called Percy, Wally, and Monty. They were all born in Kent in the UK. So those 4 are from Kent. The other 2 of his little brothers were born in the US, and that was Frank and Bud. Yes, you've guessed it. Their surnames are Westmore.
They're all Westmore.
Yep. Basically, Monty is the father of Michael Westmore.
Yes.
Who's also the father of
Mackenzie.
So this is the family history, and it's such a fucking tedious, not me down a rabbit hole thing, right? Monty worked for MGM, Percy worked for Warner Brothers, Wally worked at Paramount, Ern worked at a subsidiary of 20th Century Fox, Eagle Studios, Bud plagiarized at Universal, and Frank worked freelance, so he bummed around the lot, right? Their dad, George Westmore, was born on the Isle of Wight. He was the barber to Winston Churchill and a wig maker before he emigrated to the US. George used his wig making to get him into to the movie business.
Yeah.
So basically all the kids just followed suit with Dad because Dad got him in the door. George had a bad time after the Westmore's mum passed away. He remarried, but he had a mental breakdown and decided to commit suicide by swallowing mercury in 1931.
Fucking hell. I mean, there's other ways to do it.
You're talking the type of mercury he swallowed as well. He would have just been like a pile of skin. He would have leaked out of every orifice.
He would have been in so
the most
much pain. There is
excruciating thing the way he decided to die. But the thing was, apparently, he told everybody he was going to do it. He told everybody he was going to do it, and everybody was like, "Oh, shut up, George."
Jesus, George, there is other means and ways to do it.
So yeah, when I found this out, like I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" So when you just said Bob Westmore, I was like, "Does she know?" And I was like,
No.
"Oh,
no, no, I didn't."
So,
do you know what? I know when I was looking through the cast, she obviously caught me eye. I did read about the spinal meningitis, so I knew you were going down that route because all I kept thinking of is Zelda Pet Cemetery.
Yeah. The weirdest thing is, I never knew Bud Westmore's parents were British. I thought because he was born US, I did not know, and also I didn't know he had 6 siblings, including him with himself 7. He was the youngest, Bud, of the entire family, or Frank was the youngest. I can't remember. It did say, but I've not written that down.
They treat him like the middle. They treat him like the middle child because they didn't like him.
No, they didn't. And you can see when you start doing the deep dive that Ern and Percy, they'd paid their dues. They'd done their
respected, very much respected. Who got
Wally,
Max Factor?
I didn't get that down, but Wally, he had worked his arse off to get recognized because of his dad. Wally wanted to make sure whatever one he went to, it wasn't the same as his dad's. I think he went to Paramount, so he tried to sidestep and steer away from where his dad was, because I think his dad was working in between Warner Brothers and Universal. I think his dad sort of flip-flopped between the two, so he was trying to step away from that. But Winston Churchill's claims that George was the best barber he ever had.
He's Westmore. There is a reason their names are synonymous within makeup and hair. Like, they are the fucking best of the best. But Bud Westmore is not.
No.
And he was always living in the shadow of his big brothers. There is no excuse for what he did. None.
But He wanted to keep up with his brothers, and that's something. When we've covered Bud before, we always just make a passing comment, oh, plagiarizing. You know, he fucked over Millicent so badly, Millicent Patrick on The Creature, you know, and any special effects guy, you see an interview with Greg Nicotero, you see interviews with Tom Savini. Tom Savini still has the poster, the picture of Bud shaking the hand in his office with him holding the scalpel upside down, pretending he made the creature mask. And he said, I keep that as a reminder to keep myself humble because I don't want to end up like that guy.
I can't believe
So,
I didn't even look at his wife's surname and put 2 and 2 together. You have literally blown my mind.
I saw the surname and I went, I wonder. And then as it went down, it said founder of the SAG Awards, or like co-founder of the SAG Awards. And I was like, it must be. It must be. The name has carried her. So she was married to John Harmon, who played Neil in this movie. And when he passed away, she remarried Ellen Westmore, who was an alcoholic and ended up dying of heart-related issues. As with most of the sons, they, you know, most of the lads, the older ones, all passed away of some sort of alcohol or heart-induced.
Because the House of Westmore is an institute, and it's something that you had, like, there would have been a lot of pressure on those boys, a lot of pressure.
They didn't. The majority of them didn't make it out of the 60s.
Jesus.
So yeah,
Christ.
so that was a weird turn I did not expect to come out of this film, but it happened. So yeah,
Wow.
it was.
Okay. The only reason I mentioned Max Factor because I'm sure one of them became a either a spokesperson or just solely used Max Factor products.
Right, that might have been the case. I don't know because it hadn't specified when I was looking. Well, I didn't really look into it that much.
But I know Max Factor doesn't have so much of a name as it used to, but in the 20s to the 50s, 60s, you know, that era, they were a big name, big makeup name. And there is actually a Max Factor museum in Los Angeles, Hollywood. Fuck off, Dan.
I may have been to it, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've only ever been to it through the fucking screen in YouTube. I follow a pin-up horror host, actually. She is Spenguli, Gwen School. I can't say Sarah's name. Yes, that's it. I follow Sarah Palmer, Pin-up Palmer, that her name on. I love her. I absolutely adore that woman. She was made for horror hosting. She is absolutely hilarious. Now I've watched her go to the Max Factor studios, and it just looks amazing that you've got your 3 sections, which is your blondes, brunettes, and redheads, and then you've got your horror section underneath, and it's like,
and you got the 3 or 4 stories above it as well. It's an insane place. I think they've renamed it now. I don't think it is like the Max Factor museum anymore. I think it's the Hollywood Museum of
makeup.
Museum of Hollywood or something it's called now. But you still have the bottom floor. Well, I say the ground floor is all Max Factor makeup and stories about Max Factor and how he came about to be used mainly in the movies, all that sort of thing. And like you say, you have your different rooms regarding the different hair colors and makeup uses and all that sort of shit. And then you go downstairs and they've literally got Hannibal Lecter's thing down there. His prison cell. You've got loads of stuff from the Universal monsters down there, like the crypts and the and some sarcophaguses and coffins and all sorts down there. When you go up, you've got a bug from Starship Troopers on one of the floors. You've got life-size aliens and all sorts of props. You've got one of the Batmobiles is in there, like the original TV ones. You've got all costumes and props upstairs. There's like 2 or 3 floors above that. They're just full. I don't know how they get the stuff up there. It's beyond me. I just
described my heaven. Like, that's my Mecca. Like,
it's on Hollywood and Highland behind Ripley's, believe it or not. I think it's down La Brea. I want to say it's down La Brea Avenue, which is right across from the Hollywood and Highland, which it isn't called that anymore because they've renamed it again. God knows why, but they have. So yeah.
Yeah, that's my Mecca. That's like, I want to die there. Dan, if I die before you, scatter me ashes in there, please.
As long as you play that video at my funeral.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
100%. 100%.
She's a mean woman. Anybody want to give him $5 and they'd shoot at it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. When you put it up, I was like, oh, I'm playing that. That's if I'm here for, like, I've gone if you're gone first.
Yeah.
But if I go first, I want you to scatter my ashes in there.
I'll
Just
just
fucking sprinklers everywhere.
ooh, when they're not looking. Ooh.
Just flingers. Just going, woohoo, see you later, bye. Yeah, it's my heaven. It's makeup, it's props, it's design, like it's the set designs and stuff like that. Get to Los Angeles. You have completely shifted where I thought this episode was gonna go. I will kick myself forever because I looked at him and it's very little in Wikipedia and it was just the spinal meningitis and I laughed because I went Zelda. I'm not laughing at spinal meningitis. like I just was like Zelda.
Yeah.
No, my sister had meningitis septicemia. I'm definitely not laughing at it. But yeah, I never even noticed. And it's when my eyes like kind of went to Betty Westmore and I was like, Westmore, and then you stop. Oh my God. Okay, we end the episode now. That was fucking fantastic. That
Yeah.
was
Bye.
absolutely brilliant. That was so good. The movie itself,
There's not really much to say about it.
there's
It's
not really, but
they do him over again at the end. I mean, I've got to say the acting level. My mum messaged me when I was watching it, and she said, "What are you doing?" It's like, why? So what are you doing? There's 24 hours in police custody or some thing because she knows I like true crime. So she was like, "Oh, this is on." No, I was like, "No, I can't. I'm watching White Zombie." And I think I said to her, she said, "Is it any good?" I said, "No, everybody looks like they're made of wood," and that's
yeah.
all I can think of throughout this entire movie. Everybody is so. Apart from Neil, Neil seems to be the only one who
Neil,
seems to
Neil feels
be.
glued together. Like, yeah, I
Hmm.
get that. The rest of them all look. I mean, they're all fucking dramatic. Neil, being the best one. It's the Madeline. How can you display me? Don't leave me.
But it's
Um,
like, I don't understand any of this. There's no exposition in this movie
no,
whatsoever. So,
no, you kind of throw it into the deep end. So I'm going to try and do this as best I possibly
yeah,
can. So the opening of the movie is a couple. It is a couple. It is Neil and her in the
it's
cart,
Neil
isn't
and
it?
her being
Yeah.
taken down by Silver in the cat in the carriage. Yeah.
And they bump, and as they're in the carriage, they're in Haiti, by the way, just if you didn't know. And they are going to where they're going to, but they are stopped by what they actually don't know what it is, but it's a funeral procession.
In the road, they're burying the dead in the road
Yeah,
because they
because why
didn't want
not?
they didn't want them to be reanimated or stolen, was what he said. I
Yeah.
think the coach driver. So
Yeah, he was like, it's to kind of stop them from getting up, basically, and or be taken. And as he's explaining this, um, Bela comes out nowhere and puts his hands on Madeline. It's when she says it felt like he felt cold.
mm,
Felt like I had cold hands on me, and I was like, well, you have just had a hand on you. The line was just so weird, but he stole a scarf.
thief.
Yeah, dirty thief. But then Madeline and Neil go to their. I don't know who this guy is.
That's the bit there's no exposition for. Charles Beaumont's property, right? He's got this massive, great big plantation house. And
Yeah.
yes, it is a plantation house. And yes, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Um, it, but it's like she never mentions that she knew him prior. But why would you go to somebody who I think is her ex-boyfriend?
It must be because he's
House.
fucking obsessed with her.
But that's the thing. She's going to her ex-boyfriend's house to get married.
Yeah.
With no
And
family, no friends,
oh
just
no,
her
no
and her
one.
husband.
I mean, power to you. Like, I had a very, very small wedding. But it's weird because we don't know who this person is. But oh my God, does he keep telling you how fucking obsessed he is with her?
And when she's
Um,
walking down the stairs, and he's like, "Oh, we can run away to there's a boat outside. We can go to the port tomorrow." Blah. And it's like,
you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Don't marry him, marry me.
never not going to be the beautiful South, is it?
Oh no, it's
Don't marry
honest.
her.
So yeah, he's obsessed with her.
Hmm.
Now how he gets to go to Bela, I can't remember, but it is one of the most. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you are going to watch this movie, don't have the volume turned up really loud.
Have
Don't
one
do
with
it.
subtitles and have it down low.
Please do it because I wish I knew that. The noise in the mill was fucking horrendous and it
Yes,
went on forever.
it did. And I will be honest, I did start to nod off slightly just before the bit where the mill happened.
Did that wake
Um,
you up?
and it literally scared the bejesus out of me. It made me sort of wake up with a start. Like,
Yeah,
it was the
it's
worst.
awful.
I can't even describe the sound. A man fell in. You didn't hear him because all
No,
you could hear was the
no. You couldn't even hear any of the dialogue because of the
no,
noise that was going on.
no.
Um, it was horrific. So yeah, if you are going to watch it, just kind of turn it down a bit because I get I have a feeling I get what they're trying to do with this element of horror is use noise as a way to scare.
But noise was new, so I feel like they didn't know what they were doing with it yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because it really doesn't fit like the squawking of the fucking birds.
They didn't even open their mouth when they were squawking. It was amazing. One of them at one point, I'm sure, was stuffed, and it was
Is that what a vulture
squawking.
sounds like?
I have no idea,
Because
but
that
it
was fucking
sounded like it
horrible.
was dying.
It sounded like I just stood on my cat. Like
Yeah,
it was a horrible
horrible.
noise. It was just terrible. So yeah, I can't remember how these two come to me. I think it might have something to do with the plantation because that's how they
Yeah,
initially start talking.
I think
Um,
he invites him to the mill because basically
oh, he's
Bela's a
showing off his guys,
yeah,
isn't he?
basically Bela's a mill owner. He owns a mill, and he said, "Oh, I can help you with any problems, on your plantation if you just come and see me." And he said,
Come up
because
and see.
and then when he got there, he was showing off all the workers saying, "Oh, they work day and night. They don't have breaks. They don't need
They're
food, blah, blah, blah.
perfect.
So I can
Yeah.
make your plantation work really, really well." And then Charles just sits there and he goes, "I don't want that. I just want her."
And can you help me get her? And he's like, well, I actually can, but I don't think you're going to like it, but I'm going to give you it anyway.
Anything. And then he whispers in his ear and he goes, "Not that." And I'm like, "All
He's
right, meatloaf, calm down."
it was
Jesus.
we never will find out what he won't do.
No. I wish I'd
Yeah,
asked him.
I wish you asked him. It's a
Hmm.
question I'm never going to get the answer to. But yeah, I actually really liked Bela Lugosi's delivery and dialogue in this because he was like, you can't because he's going, I just if you could just get her away for a month, just for a month, and he's like, a month? A month? You think you can do what you want in a month and she won't forget her lover?
Hmm.
You won't even be able to do it in a year. Like,
That's the thing about Bela in this as well. In this speech here, he flits from his normal Hungarian, very
yes.
eloquent accent into what sounds like fluent French. Like he knew. I think he was fluent in French because back then you had to be fluent in you were just fluent in more than one language by standard.
He probably was. He was very smart and he was very educated. Like whether or not it's the he comes across as educated,
Hmm.
we haven't. I've purposely, whenever we've done an episode with Bela in it, I've kind of left out a lot of detail because I
Same.
really want to do a proper deep dive into this man.
That's again why I haven't gone into too much detail about him.
Mm.
I looked into the others because I thought, eventually we're going to get there. But
And we are eventually, just not now.
no, I
Space
mean,
it out. We space it out.
this is where I get a little bit like, what's he up to as well? Because he pulls a scarf out of he had a scarf next to his heart, Baker, and he pulls it out and
But
he
this
shows him.
scarf.
Yeah, it's like, that thumbstick, isn't it? Like where he keeps pulling it out and it just keeps coming. But yeah, it was like, I don't really understand why you've got, was it for the purpose of, is it a keepsake you wanted because you'd taken a fancy to her at first, or was it because,
Yeah, or was it a na nanny nana? Look what I've got, bitch, and you don't.
yeah, like, and then he was just like, "Here's some mysterious liquid. You don't need much, just
Oh,
a
and you can use it in
secret."
you can use it in a drink, or you can use it in a flower. Yeah, a
Which
scandal.
still doesn't explain shit to me. I've got to be honest. So she sniffed the flower and she died. Did she eat the flower? what does she do with the flower? Because I'm very confused how she died.
I think you've got it. She sniffed it because that's all she could do because he kind of hesitates. So yeah, the wedding goes ahead
Mm,
and he's giving her away. Believe it or not, he's giving her away. Actually, before the wedding is the scene where she's getting changed, which you mentioned was
yeah.
the one that got cut, and then that's screaming. That's another warning. This is a loud noise part.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh no, it wasn't. It was the tribal. It was like almost like a tribal music going
It
on
was
outside,
the Haiti thing going off, like the
keeping the
rituals.
spirits.
Yeah.
Yes, uh-huh. And she was like, close the window. I don't want to listen to that noise. Get off.
Such a
um,
demanding woman is old Madge.
oh, Madge was fantastic in this. I mean, let's give Madeline her dues when she's walking down with him and he's going, but I love you and we should be together. And she's like, are we honestly going to go down this path again? Like,
Again.
her eyes were so big, the eye roll lasted for about half an hour
She's like
because,
a fruit machine, wasn't she? Bing, bing,
yeah,
bing. Yeah.
yeah, she was sick of his bullshit, and that's when he was kind of like, smell this flower. Actually, just give her the flower. She smelled it, and then she just died. She just died.
She's technically married to Neil at this point, so they actually do get married, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then I don't really remember what happened from there to the fact that they go to her coffin, Charles and Bela and all of Bela's zombies. They go to the coffin and they take her body out.
They take her out. So she
Yeah.
goes into what will be classed as a mausoleum.
Yeah.
Because what they tend to do, Morbid Sam coming out, what they tend to do is if something is not, so if it's like a sudden death, there may not be a plot that is ready. Or they may need ground to settle. So they would go into a mausoleum for a period of time until whatever was needed. So the likelihood is she was probably in a mausoleum. There's one character we've failed to mention, which is Neil's mate, who has warned him constantly that there is something dodgy and shifty going on here. Because when they take her out, it's him and Neil who go and like, because Neil's starting to see her. Like he's having like images of her in a table, which was really for 1932, and we would look at it now and go, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But that was pretty clever for 1932 to get her imagery there.
And I love how they did it because with a lot of the early movies, some of you may not, some of you might not, a lot of maquette painting was done. Maquette paintings were basically used. What they did was they'd hang the painting in the background and then they would superimpose the actual video footage, the film, over the front. So when they were recording it, they would basically record it with another camera. A cinema camera was playing the film onto the back where you had then the painting. Now with this, they've had a third layer where they'd superimpose Madge onto the film, which was then superimposed onto a maquette in the background as well, so that you were getting those ghostly kind of like. But we did it with Claude. It was in the Man, where everything in the ghostly one was black except for what they wanted you to see.
Yes, and he also because they used a lot of silk in that as well. Did they use that for Phantom of the Opera? Or
I
am I
don't
just
recall
making
that
that
one.
up?
I've got to be honest. I just remember it for the Claude episode because obviously he spent most of it invisible. Hence,
96% of the movie invisible. I still remember all me interesting shit about that movie. Do you know what I watched the other day? Actually, when I was sick, I tried to watch it, and oh god, it was awful. Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man.
a lot of the Abbott and Costellos were trash.
It's not
where they met the Universal monsters. They were at the Frankenstein one gets past for me, but like
apparently that is the best. Apparently that sparked something, and I feel like we spoke about that on one of them, but it did spark something. And I didn't even get to see who the Invisible Man was. I think it might have been Vincent Price because he's the second one.
He did play him, yeah. So
but I was like, I mean, I was so poorly. I was like, I cannot concentrate on this, and it's really bad. let's just turn it off and put the Invisible Man back on. I think I watched that 3 times while I was sick. It's come a comfort movie. It's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous because I absolutely love it. So yes, the guy and Neil go to get. I don't know what they think they're doing because they don't quite understand what's happening.
They're on
But
a
they,
beach at one point.
yeah, there's a lot that goes on.
And I want to know where this beach is in Haiti. May I add, where the hell is this great big fucking stately home / castle in Haiti? That's clearly more Transylvanian than it is bloody Haitian. I tell you,
yeah, there was. Do you know what it reminded us of, Wolfman? You
it
know, the
also,
woods and
yeah. They did reuse a lot of the set from Frankenstein, from Wolfman, from a lot of the
oh, that
movies.
makes so much sense.
So it's because they reused and repurposed because it just made sense back then. You didn't need
Yeah.
50 sets. That's why a lot of that hallway scene where when you get to it when later on down the line where there's that massive like grand hall and you've got Bela, you've got Charles, and then you've got John upstairs, and then you get her walking down the stairs. That whole thing was from Dracula, but repurposed. So
I thought that when when he at the end where he's on the top of the stairs and he's walking down, I thought that looked so familiar. So, oh my gosh, okay. And that makes a lot more sense. And it's practical, like it's, saves money, I guess. Because there's no it's a shame because these sets would have been destroyed eventually, apart from one, which is the Phantom of the Opera one. There's still a part. There's still a little part there. It's amazing that I can't remember half the episodes that we've done, but for some reason, tiny little facts come into my head, and that was one of them. Yeah, so they go and Madeline's back. She's alive again, but she's out of it.
mm,
Now, something that we fail to mention at all is that this is the first time in movie history the premise and idea of zombies are on screen.
mm-hmm,
They may not be the zombie that you recognize today, but it's brain dead. I don't know if that's the technical term for zombie. I'm not sure.
I have
I'm not a
theories on
doctor.
this. Yeah,
Go
I have
on.
theories on this, but like only 36 years afterwards was when George fathered the modern zombie as we know it. And there was only 36 years between this movie and when George decided to bring the modern day zombie. But yeah, my theory on this zombie situation, none of them were actually dead. None of them died.
No.
I just think they were poisoned and they were in a trance because they were poisoned.
Well,
And
that would explain the voodoo side, yeah, because they use a lot of like I say they use like I know I've never looked into um is it voodooism? I've never looked into that side of it. I would assume that a lot of potions and herbs and such would have been as part of their practice.
yeah, so that's my theory why she, spoiler alert, snaps out of it at the end. But like it doesn't make sense. Like they're saying, oh, the dead come alive. Well, the only way that can happen is that if he's fed them this potion, they go into the dead-like state, like Romeo and Juliet, where his heart drops out, she thinks he's dead. That whole thing when he's only taken a potion to mimic death. But I think it's very similar to that, the whole like mimicking death and then they're not actually dead.
Yeah. I mean, but she did only come back because he died. So every time when he was hurt, of the first time, she recognized Neil, but it wasn't until he got yeeted. I'm going to steal one of yours, but he got yeeted off the side. Brilliant doll, by the way, that hit the ground. It was so.
Oh, what Bela's doll was atrocious.
Yeah,
It was the worst thing I've ever
so
seen in my entire life.
it was so bad.
I just
They
think
could have just. They could have just cut
resuscitation
a.
nanny.
Yeah. They could have just cut away. They didn't need to show it. But yeah.
The limp like cloth doll at the
Just
bottom being
but
washed away.
But you see it going from the hill all the way down into the water, and it's like.
And I'm telling you, that fall wasn't that big. That fall, like when you're seeing all the other zombies just fall off the edge, walk off the edge, right? I'm like, oh, okay, it doesn't look that far down. And then when they show the shot of Bela going off the cliff, you're like,
Yeah. the thing is, between where we were up to that point, it is literally a case of Neil finding out that his missus has come back from the dead,
Hmm.
zombies trying to kill Neil.
Hmm. Charles regretting his choice and made massively,
Yeah,
and then killing himself in theory.
yes, because when at the ultimate end of the movie, they're all together. He gets hurt. She snaps out of it and looks at Neil, and Neil's like, "Oh my God, it's you!" And then she kind of smiles at him. But then, as soon as Bela stands up again, she then snaps back again into her trance, because that's what it feels like. It's a
Mm.
trance. And then Charles yeets him off the side, and then does it the jumps off himself. I mean, yes, what he did was shitty. And he had a lot of reflection to do as a person, but I don't feel like he needed to jump off.
His love didn't want him. Unrequited love. He was gone. See ya.
So yeah, they all die, apart from them
Yeah.
two, and the vulture screams
And the
at the
doctor. Yeah, the doctor was still alive as well.
yes.
Dr. Bruner. Yeah, Dr. Bruner.
Mm.
But basically, the gist of the henchmen that followed Bela around everywhere, they were his enemies in life, and he turned them all into zombies, which I thought was pretty mental. But like I just like the fact that it was the thing to. This is why I think it was a trance, because of there's this thing he does with his hands, and they kept focusing on it. He puts his hands together, it's used in the poster, puts his thumb over his top of his hand, and he squeezes his hand, and that then induces this trance hypnotic like state in them to
Well,
be more intense.
that's Bruner's actual thoughts as well.
Mm.
He doesn't think that they're dead at all, that they're in a deep sleep, and he has an opportunity to then do his bidding. Because,
Mm.
oh my gosh, his little smoke pellet, that was hilarious.
Hang.
Um,
Can't see me, I'm not here.
you remember them caps you used to get when you were a kid?
Yeah.
It was one of them, but
Mm.
there was no grandiose or it was just a little and they were acting like, oh,
Mm.
oh, no. And the shadows in the background, the arms up in the air. I loved it.
It was a moment.
It was something. So that's a movie.
Yeah, there really isn't much to it, and that's the thing. The problems the film that were the problems with the film today that would make it problematic is the use of blackface. They did cast
Yeah,
genuinely
they did.
black people. They were
Yeah.
paid. It wasn't like they were free. You know, they were
No.
paid for their parts. They the problem was they didn't have enough black people to
No.
make the mill large or do a lot of the paddings in the scenes, so blackface was used. But
Yes.
not making excuses for it.
No.
32, it was a thing. You know, not now, but in 32,
I
blackface
know.
was a thing.
And this is why I mentioned earlier that this movie is very
Mm.
much a product of its time.
Yeah. I mean, it's been used as an allegory for slavery. Yes, it has, because that's
Yeah.
what it was about, regardless of what subtext you want to read into. It's not for any more than the fact that this guy wanted his mill to be productive. He was a mill owner, and the only way he could think of making it productive was by making the people work day and night. And the only way he could do that was by putting them under a trance or a spell or something to get them to work like that.
Yeah.
And he was a very, very rich man because of it. But then I think he happened to kind of fall in love with Madge a little bit, Bela.
I think he did too. I think
That's
he
what it
did.
was. He liked having the thingy over her, that power over her.
Yeah.
And I think when he
Control.
noticed towards the end, when he was doing his little magic hand signals at her and it wasn't affecting her, she started to sort of like it wasn't doing anything for her. That's when he kind of looked a bit sort of shocked, and then that's when Charles just yeeted him off the side of the cliff. So
Yeah, it wasn't working no more. Well, according to Bela Lugosi's son, who is Bela Lugosi Jr., he actually directed some of this.
yes, now I did see that, but I didn't know what parts or
It didn't say.
anything like that.
And also due to the lapse of copyright, this has been used quite a few times. In The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I've seen that movie a million times.
Rebecca
and
De Mornay, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and Ernie Hudson's in it too.
Yeah.
But I can't picture when this is. And Ed Wood. And it's when Bela and him are in the living room watching it because you see is it Martin Landau
Mm-hmm.
doing the hand thing while they're sitting on the couch, and then Ed Wood's trying to copy him, and yeah, that's where they're watching White Zombie then.
And
But
for
what I
those of you
found,
that don't know, Martin Landau is actually Juliet Landau's dad. Juliet Landau was Drusilla in Buffy. So anyway, carry on.
yeah, I'm really angry at her actually.
I don't
Years
like.
ago.
Yeah, that's horrible. That thing she did.
What thing?
She's done a documentary about her life with her father, but it's like a mockumentary, and it's not good.
Oh no, I did not know that. Ew.
It is very ew. Yeah. And
Ew.
I didn't know
No.
about that till after I met her, and I was like, ew.
Ew, no, I did not know that. No, she years ago she was going to do because of obviously the vampire's success. She was going to do a documentary on Anne Rice,
Right.
and I am an Anne Rice fan. I am a walking contradiction. I understand that. I get it. I don't like Dracula. I very much do not like Nosferatu, but I did like Anne Rice.
I'm
And
watching.
Anne Rice comes from my. This is when I said I would have loved Nosferatu in my 20s because I was a huge Anne Rice fan in my 20s. I can't read her now. I couldn't even watch a TV show. I think I've watched the film once in I don't know how many times, and I just that's not me anymore. So I understand. I am a very much a walking contradiction when it comes to vampires. What are you gonna say?
No, I'm watching the Anne Rice Mag something witches. The oh god.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Alexandra Daddario in it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm only about 4 episodes in, and I've got to be honest. I'm like, it started off really good, and I was like, oh, good, 2 seasons, something to watch. I haven't seen this, didn't know about it, and I started watching it. I was like, why am I watching this? Why? I don't know what this is about. It's
Oh, but
been
you won't
very.
end it though, will you?
Mm. But I wouldn't
Oh,
know because I'm committed now. I'm that far in, so
oh no, no, no. There was a clip that this tickled my funny bone that White Zombie was used in an episode of The Muppet Babies.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, I'm just not going there.
Do you know what's so funny? They came to Sunderland Empire when I was a kid, and I went to see the Muppet Babies live. That fucking happened.
That was the only way when I was little my mum could shut me up, put me in my high chair, put me in
Muppet
front of the TV. So
Babies.
the Muppets, just the Muppets full stop. I used to get so excited at the beginning when the theme tune used to come on. And my favourite was Waldorf and
Oh.
Gone Blank, them two anyway.
Yeah, my mum had to vet it to make sure that they didn't sing the Rainbow Connection, otherwise she was going to have a hysterical child on her hands. The Rainbow Connection sends me into hysteria. I can't stop crying.
Statler, that's it, Statler and Waldorf. They were my
Oh.
favourite when I was
Do you know
little.
what I love? So, and I still watch it today, and it's on the main theme song is on my playlist. It's on my housework playlist. It's Fraggle Rock. I fucking love Fraggle Rock. Yeah, I fucking love Fraggle Rock. I think it's so good. She's 42 this year.
Down a Fraggle Rock. I'm not going to sing the version I know, so I'm going to be quiet about that one.
Oh, don't worry, Anne sings it all the time. I'm used to it. Until I start like singing over the top of them just to be obnoxious. I actually have nothing more on the White Zombie. Um, Nothing that I can see anyway. To be honest, you win hands down with your Westmore knowledge tonight.
Unexpected turn for sure.
It just came out. It was bravo. Bravo.
Oh,
Well
you're
done.
welcome.
Well done. But what I do have to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
and what I was going to ask you before we start recording, I was like, no, I'll keep my turn. I'm going to do it now. Did you get a connection to Adventures in Babysitting? Shut the fuck up, did you?
Uh-huh. I did.
Oh my gosh, go on.
Right, okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Dan's Tedious Link is going to commenceth. So Bela Lugosi's last movie was 1959's Plan 9 from Outer Space. Plan 9 was directed by Edward D. Wood Jr. Edward D. Wood Jr. was played by Johnny Depp in the 1994 film Edward. Vincent D'Onofrio played Orson Welles in the same movie. Vincent played Dawson/Thor in Adventures in Babysitting. Thank you. Good night. Told you I could do it.
Oh my God.
Yep. And that's keeping it damn close as well. So I was
really,
really
really close. I totally forgot D'Onofrio played Orson Welles.
Yeah. It's only a very small part.
Really
but,
small. It's tiny.
Yeah.
He's in the restaurant, and you don't really see him properly, do you? It's kind of like shadowed because it's just when it comes to Orson Welles, you're only bothered about the voice.
Yeah.
You're not bothered about nothing else.
No.
Well done. I mean, next week, that's
I'm gonna do it. I'm
legit.
loving this bit. Like, there's something about this bit. This is the bit I think about more than the actual researching of the film itself. I'm like, how am I gonna do this?
I love it. No, I love it. I think
But-
it's such a great idea, and I don't want you to change the movie. You know how you said last week that you might change. I don't want you to ever change it. It has to be Adventures in Babysitting
/ Chris Columbus.
/ Chris from because that's what
It always
that's where it
leads
came
back.
from.
They lead
Yeah.
back to each other. So
Yeah, exactly. So have you got anything else before I go on to next week?
I don't really, because I feel like this movie is a product of its time. I feel this
Yes.
movie is something that should still be reviewed because it is a Bela movie. He's damn good in
Yeah.
it.
He
And
is. He's so good.
the soundtrack, like we were discussing before, is
forgot to mention
absolutely
that.
stunning when you're not listening to the cacaws of a vulture, or
Oh.
the sounds of a mill. The actual classical music they use for the score is absolutely superb.
It fits. It actually,
yeah.
for once in an old movie, the score fits
Yeah.
everything. Da da da. Yeah, it's so good. It accompanies it perfectly.
So for me, I mean, I'm glad we watched it. I'm
Yeah,
glad we've done it. But I don't feel like the need to ever go back and watch it again. Really,
I agree. I thought that after we did Plan 9 from Outer Space, like, because that is one of my favorite movies, and I was like, do you know what? I think I'm done with it now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm fully done with Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like, Plan 9, and it's how do I do it without going full Geordie? Even though I'm not a Geordie. Plan 9 from Outer Space.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's a done and dusted one. And for me, for this, it was a pleasure going back to it. It's been a long time since I've seen White Zombie. To the point where I was like, have I even watched this at all? I know that I have because I don't know if anyone else when the Ed Wood movie came out, that kind of like sparked an interest, and that is really where my love for Plan 9 comes from. Is that movie? Like, I have a lot to be grateful for when it comes down to Tim Burton's biography on it. And I know that I watched it around about that time. It is it like Dan said, it's a movie of its time. It's definitely themes of its time, but you have a man who forever will be recognized as Dracula. And for once, he is able to step out of that and perform a completely different character and still just be as good as he was in Dracula. I think, honestly, I mean, I know there's a few other movies that I would love to do with Bela's, and so my opinion could potentially change, but up to now, this is the best performance he has ever done for me personally. So that was White Zombie. Next week. I want to let you introduce next week, actually.
Next week on Monsters Up North, we talk about we talk about killer clowns from outer space.
Yes, we fucking do. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to finish your song off. I love the song.
Killer clowns from outer space.
It's on my playlist.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that song. The film I actually watched a few years ago and was like, what is this
It's an acid
absolute
trip.
pink bubblegum acid trip?
It's an acid trip. But come along for the ride, because I can assure you we'll find some shit about this film that you didn't know, because that's what we do.
No, and I feel like this is going to be interesting because they have had such a resurgence recently. Look at Universal Studios and the work that went into for putting these aliens back out there again. Aliens, because they're out of space. I don't know. I'm not sure. Clowns?
They're aliens that came down
Yeah.
as clowns for you to recognise them, I think. I can't remember. We'll tell you next week.
We'll tell you next week. So this has been White Zombie. Next week is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I can't wait. What else? What about? Oh yeah, okay. So we are on YouTube every Monday morning. You can find us on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel, and our audio goes out on a Monday as well, just after 6 o'clock. So you get two.
Oh yes, on Monday, because I heard it at 4 o'clock on Monday.
That's because I had some time. Yeah, I do try. Because I have a different way of uploading now, as in getting the actual file, it takes a lot longer. So I start very early during the day. And if they're all done at a certain time and I've got a little bit of free time, I'll just put them up and then I'll do the promotion after I finish work. So yeah, you might get notified that they are out a bit earlier, but I'll tell you all about it at 6 o'clock when I finish work. So yes, we are, everything to do with this goes up on a Monday. You can, oh, I really need to put this together better. So the links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, and Nerdy Up North are where, Dan?
Down there, down there.
Such a pretty nail.
Jeebus.
Jesus. She's gonna get Jesus on her nail.
Price compels you.
I'm surprised your hands haven't blown off or burst into flames.
It has occurred to me. I'm not gonna lie.
What else?
Audio,
Links.
YouTube, links.
Audio, YouTube, links. Next week is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Is that it? I'm gonna make a list so I can tick everything off and be a bit more queer. Have a bit better ending. I feel like the opening is like perfect. I need a better ending. But if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
Dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my Dracula. Copyright infringement. Bye!
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye!
Please don't. Shut up.